This jar of honey costs $200. But here's the crazy part. Bees only have 3 weeks per year to make it. If it rains for just 3 days, the entire harvest is gone. Last year, one beekeeper lost $400,000 because of it. But here's where it gets even stranger. New Zealand produces only 1,700 tons of real Manuka honey every year. Yet the world sells over 10,000 tons. So where does the rest come from? Pattern interrupt. Producing 1 jar of authentic Manuka honey requires bees to visit more than 22,000 individual flowers. Some worker bees will spend their entire 6-week lifespan contributing to the production of just a single jar. Think about that for a moment. An insect that lives for only a few weeks might spend its entire life gathering nectar for a product that fits in the palm of your hand. But even that statistic barely captures the scale of the work involved. How most honey is made. In modern honey production, efficiency is everything. Inside a large honey processing facility, huge tanks can hold 50,000 pounds of honey at once. To produce that amount, bees may have visited around 2.5 billion flowers and flown a combined distance equivalent to traveling to the moon and back 17 times. Once the honeycombs arrive at the factory, the process is surprisingly fast. Beekeepers remove the wax caps, sealing each honey cell in a step called uncapping. The frames are then placed into large centrifuge machines. These machines spin rapidly, using centrifugal force to pull honey out of the comb. Within minutes, honey flows into collection tanks where it's filtered and packaged. For most honey varieties, this process happens smoothly and predictably, but Manuka honey breaks almost every rule of modern honey production. The 3-week window. The biggest reason Manuka honey is expensive comes down to timing. The Manuka tree blooms for only a short period each year. Depending on weather conditions and regional climate, the bloom may last 2 to 6 weeks. Miss that window, and the entire season is lost. For beekeepers, this creates enormous pressure. Thousands of hives must be transported into remote Manuka forests at exactly the right moment. If everything goes perfectly, sunshine, warm temperatures, and strong nectar flow, the bees can produce valuable honey. But if the weather changes suddenly, everything collapses. One beekeeper experienced this firsthand. He placed 280 hives in a remote Manuka forest, expecting a strong harvest. Then heavy rain arrived and lasted for 3 days. Rain prevents bees from flying and collecting nectar. By the time the weather improved, the Manuka bloom had already passed its peak. His harvest fell by more than half, costing him hundreds of thousands of dollars. Why Manuka is so rare. Manuka trees grow primarily in New Zealand, with smaller populations in parts of Australia. Even in New Zealand, they thrive mainly in rugged, remote areas where the soil and climate are ideal. Unlike many crops, Manuka trees don't bloom consistently every year. Some seasons produce massive flowering events, covering entire hillsides with white blossoms. Other years, the same forest may produce almost no flowers at all. Scientists call this phenomenon masting. During masting cycles, plants release large amounts of flowers and seeds in certain years, followed by periods of minimal production. For beekeepers, this unpredictability makes planning extremely difficult. A hive might produce 50 kilograms of Manuka honey one year. The next year, the same hive in the same forest may produce almost nothing. The bee problem. Even if everything appears perfect, healthy trees, ideal weather, and thousands of bees, there's still a major challenge. Bees don't always cooperate. Beekeepers can place hives in the middle of a Manuka forest, but they cannot control where bees actually collect nectar. If nearby flowers produce easier nectar, bees may simply ignore the Manuka trees. One operation placed 500 hives in a remote Manuka region, expecting a valuable harvest. Instead, the bees flew nearly 3 miles away to collect nectar from pasture flowers. The honey produced was perfectly good, but it wasn't Manuka. Because Manuka honey sells for far higher prices, the beekeeper lost more than $600,000 in potential revenue. The chemistry behind Manuka. What makes Manuka honey special isn't just its rarity, it's the chemistry. Manuka honey contains a natural compound called methylglyoxal, often abbreviated as MgO. This compound gives the honey powerful antibacterial properties. Researchers have discovered that Manuka honey can inhibit certain bacteria that normal honey cannot. Because of this, it has been used in wound care, medical treatments, and specialized health products. But MgO levels vary dramatically between hives. One hive might produce honey with MgO 200. Another nearby hive may produce MgO 500 or higher, which significantly increases its value. Because of these variations, honey from different hives cannot simply be mixed together. Each batch must be carefully separated and tested. Lab testing. To protect the authenticity of Manuka honey, New Zealand introduced strict scientific testing requirements. Every batch of certified Manuka honey must pass 5 separate laboratory tests. These tests measure MGO levels, the key antibacterial compound, or DHA levels, the precursor chemical that converts into MGOB, unique chemical markers found in Manuka nectar, pollen, DNA analysis confirming Manuka plant origin, heat damage indicators to ensure the honey wasn't altered. These tests determine whether the honey sells for $50 per kilogram or more than $300 per kilogram. Without certification, a jar cannot legally be labeled as genuine Manuka honey in many markets. The fake Manuka problem. Despite these protections, the global market still faces a huge problem. New Zealand produces roughly 1,700 tons of genuine Manuka honey each year. But worldwide, more than 10,000 tons labeled as Manuka are sold annually. That means thousands of tons of honey may be mislabeled, diluted, or counterfeit. Some fake products mix small amounts of Manuka honey with cheaper honey varieties. Others use syrups or additives to mimic the chemical profile. To combat this fraud, scientists now use advanced laboratory equipment capable of analyzing the molecular fingerprint of honey. These machines can detect subtle chemical signatures that reveal whether the honey truly came from Manuka nectar. Climate threats. Another challenge is emerging that could make Manuka honey even rarer. Climate change is beginning to affect the bloom cycles of Manuka forests. Some years, flowers appear weeks earlier than expected. Other years, extreme weather reduces flowering dramatically. Storms, droughts, and sudden frosts can destroy entire harvests. Researchers studying Manuka ecosystems warn that these environmental changes could reduce production even further. If bloom cycles become less predictable, beekeepers may face even higher risks. In the future, authentic Manuka honey may become far harder to produce than it already is today. Inside a single jar of Manuka honey lies an incredible amount of work. Around 60,000 bees may contribute to its production. They collectively visit tens of thousands of flowers. They fly enormous distances, gather nectar, and transform it through a complex natural process inside the hive. Meanwhile, beekeepers must transport hives to remote forests, monitor bloom cycles, test chemical levels, and hope the weather cooperates. Even with perfect planning, success is never guaranteed. Rain can ruin a harvest. Bees can choose different flowers. Bloom cycles can disappear entirely. That's why Manuka honey isn't expensive simply because it's considered a luxury product. It's expensive because producing it requires rare plants, precise timing, unpredictable nature, and the combined effort of thousands of bees. In other words, it's not just honey, it's one of the most difficult foods on Earth to produce.